the more people you can potentially get at a home open, the better off you are with a potential creates the buyer demand. It all starts with having those visual photos and making it interesting enough for someone to actually turn up to the home open. We're here to help enhance the fixed assets of the property. So that's what staging does.
Welcome to Perth Property Insider, where you will learn how to grow your wealth and improve your life using Perth property. Our show is brought to you by Investors Edge Real Estate, the highly rated and award-winning property management, sales and buyers agency servicing the whole of Perth. Now, here's your host, Jared Mann.
G'day, Jody. Really excited today to be talking through the inside world of staging and what we've been doing for many of my sellers. So excited to have you on the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, really, before we get stuck into things, tell us a bit about yourself and how did you end up in the world of staging?
Okay, well, I'm originally from Darwin, so I came down here 7 years ago now. And when I got here, I couldn't actually find any work. So I know renovating. I've done a lot of investment buying and selling and renovating properties and building houses I currently do it. So I sort of thought, well, if I can't get an office job, I will create my own job. So I started with a friend of mine. We started flipping houses. So we would buy an unrenovated house, gut it, redesign it, stage it and sell it for a profit. So yeah, that's how I got into staging because, we were doing our flip projects and we knew that the formula works. If we renovate, stage and we sell, we can maximize our profit. So yeah, we've been doing that. We were quite successful. Quite a lot of the agents were getting word of what we were doing and asked us to help their clients achieve some great results and do some cosmetic renovations and do some staging to help their clients. So our business branched into helping others prepare their house for sale. So that's how I got into, staging and helping others sell their house for a profit.
And I really like how you've got the renovating skills and experience too, and it just makes it a lot more practical. And many times if something needs fixing or doing, you just happen to sort it without even telling me, and it's great that those skills overlap, I think, a lot in getting your end result.
Yeah, I think that actually makes me a little bit different to most stagers because I have that renovation background and I'm very renovated solution orientated. So if somebody needs anything done, if they need a painter or if they need new carpets, I have all the trades. I have people and suppliers that I've worked with over the years. So I've built relationships and most of the time I can carry that on to a client and give them, that extra service.
And I think back to when I first started using you, I think at that time you was just sort of renting out and staging with your own furniture between jobs, and it wasn't like a full-blown business at that point. And I've seen the evolution of, now at any one time we might have 4 or 5 of my properties staged, and you're doing that with lots of other clients as well. So how has that evolution come about to go from, just using the furniture that you happen to have versus now, customizing it and having a depth of furniture and staging, stuff that you can draw on?
Well, for some unknown reason, when you have furniture in, say, your carport, it just seems to multiply and it just grows. So yeah, the couple of houses worth of furniture I had for my own staging projects have turned into about 10 or 12 houses worth of furniture. I'm actually occupying 2 warehouses at the moment with furniture and stock. So yeah, it just seems to have snowballed and the furniture seems to have multiplied. But I don't want to go any more than that. I'm trying to actually keep it at that level. I'm just want to stay boutique. Don't want to go any larger than what I already am, and just work with the clients and my valued agents that I work with now. So, and just keep that service at that high level without stretching myself too thin, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, good. And for those that don't know what home staging is, why is it important for selling a property, because some of my clients, I'm introducing them to the idea, and more people are catching on when they watch the renovation shows and the block, when they go to the massive efforts of staging those homes before they sell them. But give us your take on that.
Well, look, everything is online now. So, the first point of contact any potential buyer has is from your online marketing photos. So, how do you get those photos to resonate with a potential buyer? How do you capture their interest? And, how do you get them basically out of their seat to the property? There needs to be some sort of interest. And so the staging actually helps create that visual interest in the photos. So that's step number one that staging does. It creates that visual interest.
As opposed to, say, a vacant photos or ugly furniture that doesn't suit or shows, a house to be looking too small, or yeah.
Well, look, a photo of an empty room does not spark any interest, so it's tools and techniques and that visual aid that staging creates for those marketing photos, and trying to capture that buyer's interest to get them to actually turn up to the home open. So the more people you can potentially get at the home open, the better off you are with a potential, that creates the buyer demand. So the more people we can get there creates buyer demand. That in turn creates multiple offers and potentially a higher selling price. So it all starts with having those visual photos, and making it interesting enough for someone to actually turn up to the home open.
Now, of course, there is digital furnishing now, which you can have put on photos, but the downside of that, of course, is when someone comes, they can sometimes feel let down that the property's vacant or not presenting as well. And it's certainly a whole other level when they can come and see the furniture and see how their life could be in the house. So
100%. That's what we call virtual staging. So we take the unfurnished photos or images and we digitally put this furniture in the photos. So what that does do, it ticks one box of creating that visual interest for the marketing photos. But what it doesn't do is when, like you're saying, when people do turn up to the home open and they're expecting to see what they've seen online, to get there and then go, oh, this is empty. This doesn't look like anything I've seen online. It does create that disappointment in potential buyers. And it's that disappointment then when they're walking through the house, that it's that underlying feeling. Whereas a well-staged house that's then captured a potential buyer's interest for them to come then to the house to look at the home open, that just creates another layer. When they actually see what's there, they can physically touch it, see it, put reference to the space. It builds on that initial connection with buyers. So yeah, it ticks a few boxes.
The other challenge I've found is in having a vacant property, buyers can see everything, and because there's nothing to distract them from going really deep, they'll scrutinise every little tiny mark on a wall or a tiny mark on the floor. But if there was furniture in to give perspective and to actually latch onto, people wouldn't necessarily notice tiny imperfections. And so a buyer can walk away feeling that a property's not in as good a condition as it, it's not a fair comparison when you're comparing a property that's got furniture in with one that's without. So
yeah, 100%. And that's one of the main reasons that you do stage, is to be able to, one, it helps people walk through the house. So we stage in such a way that we place, say, artwork in certain areas that we were actually physically with the furniture and the decor following that, helping a buyer walk through the property and constantly capture their interest along the way, and keeping them at that eye level so they aren't looking up at the ceiling and looking at the floor and like you said, looking at those imperfections. We're not there to distract, or no, we're not. So we are there to distract them from that, but we're not there to cover it up. So, if there is, when I work with clients, if there is something major that I say, look, just put a piece of artwork over that. No, we don't do that. We do say, okay, look, you really need to get that fixed, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, there are things that, the minor crack and scratch and things like that. Yeah, that people oversee that, like you said, but we're not there to cover up any major faults or anything like that.
Yeah, I always want to put those things, deal with them before we go to market, sort them out, and then buyers can make an informed decision and feel like they're getting what they pay for. Then we don't want anyone getting let down on settlement day.
Yeah, 100%. And we're here to help enhance the fixed assets of the property. So that's what staging does. So at the end of the day, we get the buyers in the door. We sell the lifestyle with the furnishings to show you this is how you could potentially live. Put reference to spaces, how you would use the space, because a lot of the time I go into people's houses and they may have a bedroom as an office set up. So, when we look at staging, we'll look at what is the purpose of the room, and we go back to the basics of furnishing it in such a way that it represents what the house actually truly is, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I love it where a room could, when buyers are walking through it, it could be difficult for them to see how it's laid out. You've got a larger space that could involve a study, or we've got a strange little sort of study nook that buyers just sort of are trying to figure out what to do with it. Like, I love how you sort of break up the rooms and segment them, and then they walk away thinking, wow, like I can do a lot more with this space than I thought.
Yeah, look, an empty space that might already be awkward, it baffles people's potential buyers' mind. They can't visualize how can they use that space. So for us bringing furniture in and sort of solving that problem.
And I love how we speak on our different listings, what can we do with that specifically, or, how can we solve this and show the buyers what it could be?
Yeah, and 100%. And that's the value of staging, is to give that reference to the rooms, give the room purpose, and give people an idea of how they can utilize the space. Yeah.
And on the lifestyle aspect, I've seen many of my buyers taking photos at the final inspection, and they're, especially the first home buyers that are needing to shop for furniture and, deck their house out there, they often go out and do it in exactly the same way that the property was staged. So that's a good testament to how much they loved it when they were buying it. So
the best compliment any stage you can have is when a potential buyer says, I want to buy the whole furniture. I want to buy the house with the furniture. That's us going, oh, right, happy days. We've done our job. A lot of the times on the other side, we do help buyers, or the buyers live. We call it staging to live. So we do have a service where afterwards, if they do want that service to help them recreate the staging look for them to live in, we have that service that we can do. So yeah,
well, that would be good for any of our listeners as well that might want to just take their homes to another level, because we're not all blessed with home styling and designing skills. And I'd heavily rely on my wife and sister and mum, and even then, I like taking inspiration from the stuff that you do. So well, that could help a lot of people too if they're wanting to take their homes and to the next level.
Yeah, for sure. That's what it's all about. So
you mentioned that type of staging. Is there other types that you do?
Yeah, we also do occupied home staging. So occupied is when a person is actually still, or the seller is still remaining in the house while they're selling the property. So occupied home staging is a completely different kettle of fish. It is a lot harder to stage, because we are utilizing the existing furniture in the seller's home. So we do our best to work with their furniture and decor. We do have packages where we can bring in some higher decor and furniture and artwork and things like that. But most of the time we utilize the existing furniture in the client's house, and we create it in such a way that we create better marketing photos. So yeah, so that's occupied. Not a lot of home stages do it. So, if you've got any listeners out there Yeah, if you've got a lot of listeners that are looking at staying in the house when they're selling, then just reach out to a home stager. Just check if they do the occupied home staging service. And yeah, so there's not a lot out there, but I do that as well. So
okay. So there's certainly a lot of misconceptions. What are some of the common ones about home staging that you've encountered over the years?
Yeah, there's a lot. Like you mentioned, staging is still relatively new here in Australia. I mean, it's catching on. Like in America, not a house goes on the market unless it's been staged. It's catching on here. A lot of the eastern states now is doing a lot of home staging, but we're sort of still lacking in Perth here. So there's still quite a lot of people lack the knowledge of what it does and the value of it. So a lot of the misconceptions that I get is that people think home staging is interior design, so to speak. So when it's completely different to interior design, whereas an interior design or designer actually creates a home that's personalized, so it's to your personal taste. Whereas a home stager will bring the property back to a neutral state to attract more potential buyers. So that's one misconception. We aren't interior designers. We're home stagers, and we're here to actually make you money, not cost you money, whereas interior design is all about costing you money. We're here to put elements and processes and solutions in place to actually make you money. So that's one misconception, that they think it's just interior design. It's just about making your property look pretty. It's not just about making your property look pretty. It's making your property more marketable. And then saying that it's taking those renovation skills and solutions. So, does your property need to be, do you need new carpet? Do you need new paint? Do you want to upgrade the kitchen? And how do you do that on a budget? Because you're selling, you don't want to spend a lot on your property when you're selling, but how do you create a more marketable product that's going to get you more money in the end? So a good home stager can come up with solutions and workarounds to help sellers to do that. So that's one misconception, is about the interior design and what we actually do as a home stager. I guess another one I come across a lot is, especially in the market now, because the market at the moment, it is a bit crazy and things are selling. So a lot of the misconceptions I do get at the moment is, well, why do we need to stage? Why do we need to stage it when our house will sell anyway? And literally, yes, in the literal sense, yes, your house will sell anyway.
It's the same at the moment. They're like, oh, had one person the other day, why do I need an agent if I can just chuck it online and sell it anyway? And then I looked a few weeks later and the marketing copy is shocking. The photos are horribly bad. I've gone on with the property staged and in the first week sold it, so far above asking price. I've still been checking. They haven't sold theirs yet. I'm waiting to see what it sells for, because it's going to make a wonderful case study, because the properties are virtually identical. So, classic case in point.
Yeah, well, look, people just don't understand the value of staging, and to be able to convince, well, it's not about convincing sellers, but the knowledge behind why to stage, why to make those improvements, even in a hot market like this, if you don't stage, you're still potentially leaving dollars on the table. So you may, you potentially may sell, but how long is it going to take? And are you going to be leaving dollars on the table? So,
and the way I think about it is, if you've got more buyers to get even more emotional with the staging and create even more competition, then we always want more demand, more competition, regardless of how hot the underlying market is. And I think buyers, we have an even greater chance of getting more when the market's hot than we do when it's cold. When it's cold, it could actually be the difference between selling and not selling. So I recall one apartment that you staged for us in Rivervale. I only had one buyer that came through, but there was 5 other apartments on the market in the building, And, we sold first week with just one buyer through, and we were pushing the asking price and still sold just above asking price. So, those other apartments have been on a very long time. We're probably going to have to continue reducing their asking price to sell. They had potential vacancy cost as well on top of that. And so it makes a difference to me, even when you've got low buyer numbers. It can be the difference between selling and not, and then high buyer numbers, we can get much more in that emotional space. So,
100%. And look, they're probably, like you said, in a complex, and there's other units. What is setting your unit or your property apart from the others? With the staging, that set the property apart, so it looks different. The only problem with unit, I'm not a big fan of buying units, because you're sort of dictated with everybody else that's selling in that market and how much they're selling for. To try and get that extra bit of money, it's what has your apartment got differently? The styling, is that what you've just said? The styling helps set the apartment apart from its competition. And it goes with houses as well. Recently actually read a case study where it was in Queensland that they did this case study where they looked at a unstaged house versus a staged house in the same suburb, same type of house. So the unstaged property got 500 views versus the staged property got 3,000 views. So when you're looking online and your photos are online and you're getting 300 clicks versus 3,000 clicks, which one is going to create more buyers turn up at that home open? Of course, the 3,000 clicks is going to get the buyers there. And the more buyers that are in the house, like you said, is going to create that buyer demand and result in higher price because they're emotionally connected to the property.
I usually find that 400 views tends to translate through to 6 buyers, and I like to sort of measure this and look at the funnel for each property we come on. And it's not as important now when we're selling most properties in the first week, but previously we'd have to diagnose, are we getting enough exposure and what can we change to boost that? And I do know that in this case, you'd probably get, 30 buyers through versus the 6. And that's going to be a huge difference in the potential competition that you can have. So,
yeah, 100%. And, staging does help that. It creates that level of emotional connection when they can see themselves living at the house and fall in love with what they see, because that's what you want to do. My intention when I stage is I always like to make the house feel homely. So when people walk in the door, that they have that sense of feeling like they're at home. And, that's those little elements that I bring with setting the dining table or setting the lounge or the theatre room.
I have lots of people joke around. I had one person on the weekend, they said, "Oh, Jared, the popcorn was a bit, hard to swallow." And I was like, "You didn't have some, did you?" Because I think you coated it in preservative or something, or enamel or something to coat it.
Yeah, definitely do not eat the props. So, yeah, but look, that I like to do those sort of little things because I think it adds that little bit of that when people buy, they buy obviously by emotions, but, it's working with their subconscious mind. When people come in, they may not necessarily pick up on everything, but, it's adding those layers, I guess, of making them feel at home by all these little things in the background, but you don't physically sort of make note of.
Yeah, if we ask them, "Oh, why did you buy the house?" they're not going to say, "Oh, because of the popcorn and the scones on the popcorn in the theatre room and scones on the breakfast table."
Yeah, they're not going to probably remember those things, but when they walk into that room, they have that sense of, "Oh, yeah, I feel like I could lay back on this couch and watch a movie and eat the popcorn and just have a family night." And that's the sort of story that we were trying to tell potential buyers, that's what you can do in the space. So, those little touches is just what I like to do to create that homely feel with my staging. So,
well, a lot of clients also say to me, "Oh, well, this property is more suited to investors." Like, do investors care about that sort of thing? Surely they just want a tenant. I see that everyone buys with emotions, and we're all human. So some investors I've had pay a lot more for a property that's staged. So
buying a house is a big investment. It's, and people probably, investors are probably buying and selling all the time, but most people, buy one or two houses, live in it, sell it. So they've got all those emotional connections. So it is a very emotional time. And when people are selling, we don't know the reasons why they're selling, but more than likely it's a very emotional period of time, because they may be selling. It may be a divorce sale, or it could be
whole range of reasons.
Yeah, so it is a very emotional time. And so, buying and selling is an emotional process. You're not going to spend thousands of dollars and, buy something that you hate.
Yeah, well, you think tenants will never love living there, so just both ways.
That's right. So, I think it's very important for investors to stage if they're selling a house, regardless. So, definitely stage versus not staging can make a huge difference to your end sale price. So, for sure.
And the other one I get is, Jared, staging is pretty expensive and they can't afford to stage. So have you had that come up a fair bit?
All the time. Staging is an investment. It's a marketing tool. It's a marketing strategy. So it's, is it worth doing? 100% I believe it's worth doing. I personally wouldn't have gotten into the business if I didn't think that, renovating, staging, selling maximizes the end profit. So it's an investment, and unfortunately it does cost money. Like, there's a lot of moving parts to staging. We've got removalist costs, we've got the hired furniture costs, we've got a lot of overheads with storage and things like that. So it does cost money. But look, there's, each stage is different, but, ask for a payment plan, definitely get a couple of quotes. I'm not necessarily not the right stager for everybody. So, find a stager that you connect with and get a couple of quotes. Ask for payment plans. There are ways and means of going around, the cost of it. So, yeah.
I always say to people, if you're definitely going to sell, and I think when it comes down to us being, the more sure we are that we can get someone's minimum price, then we're always going to get over and above for the cost of the staging, we're always going to get far more back. So it's only for those clients that might be on the fence and about, are they really selling and for what price, and can we get that price? And, I hate to vacate the property, stage it, have all the vacancy cost, and then not get a result for people. So I'm really always looking to, can we get them that minimum result? And if the answer is yes, then I know that we can get more with staging, basically.
Yeah. I'll tell you a little story about one of my clients. The prime example about cost. So this client was a couple of years ago. One of my agents actually called me and said, he hasn't listed her at this point. He said, I've just had a meeting, a potential client meeting. I talked about staging. She didn't know anything about staging. Could you just give her a call and have a chat with her? So it's like, yeah, okay, no. So I gave her a call, made an appointment to see her at the property. And when I got there, after our initial introduction, my name and stuff, she said to me, the first words out of her mouth was, I've had 7 agents through the property. So I'm like, okay, wow. In my head, I'm thinking, right, she's either got an unrealistic figure and an agent hasn't told her what she can achieve, or she hasn't had a connection with any of these potential agents. And then she said, out of the 7 agents, Brad, the one that got me in for this particular listing, was the only one that actually suggested staging. So I was a little bit shocked that out of 7 agents, there was only one promoting staging. That was a bit concerning. But
I think for a lot of agents, it's like, it's another step, it's another difficulty, it's another thing to coordinate. They just want to get on with selling it and moving on to the next one. And it's often why they don't bother suggesting improvements or, coordinating or getting things renovated too. Same reason.
Yeah, well, look, also probably because some agents, they're scared to approach these things with the client because they may potentially lose the listing. So that they're scared they may lose the listing by saying, oh, we want you to spend more money. We want you to, spend money on painting. We want you to do this. I mean, all of these things are going to obviously help, but it's more cost. And then, a potential, when they're looking at trying to get the listing.
Difference between cost versus investment, isn't it? Investment returns and gets you more.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, some agents are a bit scared to approach that. It is surprising anyway that out of those 781 actually recommend staging. But
where did you end up with her?
Oh, we went through the house. So she actually was a painter. So she actually painted the house. It was lovely. It was quite a neutral colour and on trend, so it worked. She renovated the kitchen. The bathroom wasn't done too long ago, but she renovated the kitchen. She put new carpets in. She actually did a lot. This particular property was her mum's property, and her mum was going into care. So she knew that she had to do something because the house was dated, and she had the skill set to do majority of the work. So when I rocked up, she had already finished painting. She had already pretty much done everything. I think she was in the process of putting some window treatments up at the time. And she'd done a really, really good job. There was nothing there that I would say, oh my God, you spent money here and it's not on trend. No, she did a great job. So, yeah, we went around the house and she wanted to know about staging. So I sort of said to her, I come up with this analogy. I said to her, staging is like icing on the cake. So she's gone to the hard work of doing all these renovations and baking her cake, and she's about to present this cake on the market basically iced or naked, pretty much. So I said, staging brings the icing. It brings that magic sprinkle dust that makes your house look more marketable, with the photos. It gives it reference. It gives something for people when they come in the door to look at visually, get a sense of the space and the lifestyle they can potentially have with the property. So we went through it all, and then I said to her, oh, look, this is how much staging costs. She was taken aback. She was like, oh, okay, I didn't think it was going to cost that much. And she said, oh, no, I can't afford it. I've just spent all this money renovating. I don't have any money left. And I said, oh, look, okay, that's, I get it. Look, I understand. You got a budget and, you've maxed your budget. That's fine. If you can't afford to stage, you can't afford to stage. I always put my investor hat on first. So I'm not there to flog staging. I'm always putting my investor in. If you haven't got the money, then you haven't got the money. So I sort of said to her, look, what you've done is great. I gave her some advice of putting the window treatments up. And I said, look, good luck with it all. I think you will sell, and I wish you luck. And I left. So, yeah, it was probably about a week or 10 days later, she called me. She said, oh, Jody, I had to think about it and I want to ice my cake. I'm like, okay. And she said, and I said, okay, well,
I'm glad you remembered the reference.
Yeah, I know. I saw it. The cost is, and she's like, yep, I've actually got a loan from a family member and I'm going to do the staging. So she actually borrowed money from family to stage. And yeah, so we came in and we staged it. And I think from memory, just to run some numbers, I think pre-appraisal was at with the renovations that she had done was 400. So she was it's a 3x1. So yeah, she had appraisals at 400. We staged. She had 2 offers the first home open, and she sold for 440. So an extra 40 grand more than what she was appraised at. And yeah, she rang me and she was happy days doing a happy dance, and she said, "Oh, Jody, I know that extra 40,000 is because I did the staging and it's your staging that got me that." And I said, well, no, it's It's actually the combination of renovating, staging, and your agent getting and working for you to get that best possible price that you've gotten, a great result. So, she was happy. And look, a lot of my clients, we have similar stories all the time. But it's really hard because no one's got a crystal ball. So we don't know. And the house is only going to be worth what someone's willing to pay for it. So, but if you don't do everything that you can possibly do to get your property ready and looking its absolute best when it hits the market, are you leaving some money on the table if you don't, if you haven't given it everything? And 9 times out of 10, well, actually 10 out of 10, you'll be leaving money on the table if you don't do it.
Makes sense. And we see it every week, so.
Yeah.
So tell us a bit about the home staging process and how does it typically work? So we could take people inside that.
Yeah, no worries. So typically it will start with a phone call. We need to determine from the phone call what type of staging the client needs. So whether it's the vacant or the occupied home staging, because the services are different and how we go about it is different. So initially we just find that out. And then from there we come out, we do a site meeting or a site consultation and then we go through. So depending on who I'm working with yourself, Jared, I don't normally tend to do this because you're pretty good at telling clients what they need to do in preparing their home for sale. So that's really great. But most of the time I'm going in and actually giving them advice on carpet choices and paint choices and what other things can they do to maximize their sale price in regards to those renovation items and how to best use the budget they have so they get the best bang for their buck. Because a lot of people they get the wrong advice, and the wrong advice can cost thousands of dollars. And for instance, one of them is the biggest thing that I come across is painting. It's the huge, issue.
It can add a lot of value.
Painting it the right color, a fresh modern color, can add huge amounts of value to the property. But what I do find that, we, as a stager, we come in a bit later down the process and they go, oh yeah, we've actually freshly painted, and they've gone and painted it, just repainted it the same color that it was, 20, 30 years ago. We just freshened it up. And I'm like, oh my God, you've just wasted however many thousands of dollars it just cost you to paint an outdated color.
Like, oh, we went with the same yellow, base. Oh my God, it just hurts my eyes. It's like.
Yeah, or, you get it. A lot of the color I see is that hog's bristle that was like in the 90s and stuff, and people say, oh, we just repainted it hog's bristle. I'm like, oh no, so yeah, painting is an absolute huge area that can give you a lot of money, but can cost you a lot of money if you get it wrong. So getting somebody that knows that what the market trends are, what colors are selling at the moment, what can work as a neutral color palette. So yeah, that's where some of the skills that we bring in as a stager prior to, actually just decorating the house in the hired furniture. So we can give that advice to help clients avoid costly mistakes. So yeah.
And I like it with our clients because I keep it pretty simple. I go out and see the property and let them know all their suggested improvements, and especially when we're managing it as one of our landlords, I get my property managers to do all the little upgrades, and we get the tenant to do theirs before they vacate. And then you can usually provide a pretty comprehensive quote off of a floor plan and then go and confirm later once we're all moving ahead. So
yeah, look, so basically if we've gone in and done that consultation, that helps them get an idea of, where to go with their budget in regards to those fixtures and repairs and maintenance and stuff like that. And then what we do from there, we always like to go and visit the property regardless if they've already done all that sort of stuff. Like in most of your properties, Jared, it's already sort of done for me. But I still like to go and visit the property. I can quote off the floor plan. But the reason why I like to actually go and visit the property is to get a feel of the property, the space, have a look at those fixed assets. So when I'm looking at staging, I'm thinking, how can I enhance what the main selling point is of this particular house? And it might be, this massive big backyard or whatever the case may be. That's where I'm going to focus my attention when I stage is towards those fixed assets to enhance them and bring that to the forefront of someone's mind to go, great, this backyard is like amazing. I can have entertainer here and that sort of thing. Or the master bedrooms, like this massive master bedroom, and I'm going to have all these other elements in the room. So it's really important that we go out and actually view the property to see it in person. Actually, a prime example, the other day, I did one of your properties. It was the first one in Alkimos that I did. And I'm training a helper at the moment, and she was up there with me helping on the Alkimos job. And she said to me, how do you know what furniture to put in here? And I said, well, when I came up to site, I had to have a look. I said, because typically when you sit back, you think, okay, Alkimos, it's near the beach. You think you want to go Hampton style, and the Hampton sort of style is that white and natural timbers and all of that sort of color palette. And if I just quoted off the floor plan and just went, yeah, Alkimos, it's sort of going to be beachy. We run with the beachy sort of theme styling, it would have been completely wrong for that particular house. Because that house, the fixed assets, and when I'm saying the fixed assets, the tiling, the paint on the walls, the cabinetry, they all lean towards what we call cool colours. So if I went and put a warm tone type furniture and into a cool type house, it would look wrong. So it's important. So if I just never seen the property and put it in there, buyers they probably like what they still see, but subconsciously they'd be going, oh, this doesn't feel right. I was talking about that subconscious sort of when people are walking through, they'll have this uneasy feel because they don't know what's wrong, but something's wrong. And it's the colours that are clashing. So even though it was Alkimos and I was working with cooler colour palettes, I still brought some elements of that Hampton style by the type of furniture, but it was a different colour palette. It's really important that we do as a stage go out and view the property so that we're collating a furniture package that is going to work and complement the fixed assets of the home.
Well, I was wondering why the two that I've just sold up there are quite different in their styling.
Yeah. And that's why. And she sort of said to me, oh, it's like completely different. And it had to be, or else it would look wrong. But yeah, there was elements in there that still lean towards the beachy feel and a bit of a Hampton style, but it was a different color palette. So yeah, so that's why it's important for us to go out and look at the property before we do anything and make sure that we're selecting the right type of furniture and decor that's going to work for the property.
Awesome. Well, we've touched on so many things today, and we could probably keep talking more because we both love what staging can do. But how can people get in touch with you if they do need some help or to get a quote? I'll put your details in the show notes as well, but tell us a bit about how to reach out.
Well, obviously through yourself, Jared, has been one of my valued agents I work with. But yeah, my website, we can put that down in your notes. Unfortunately, I'm not really...
Your business is called Bella Property Styling, isn't it? And Design.
Yeah, Bella Property Styling and Design. So I'm on Facebook. I do have a website, but it's still a work in progress. I'm not very tech savvy, so I pour all my creativity into styling.
When someone asks me, I just send them, lots of properties that we've sold and done together, and that's the best way to see your work.
Yeah, generally that's what I do when when a potential client reaches out. I just send them a whole heap of links, and nothing speaks more than having a look at the physical work and, you know, what is online, and then, you know, having a bit of an idea of the numbers that it's sold for is, you know, the proof's in the pudding. So, yeah.
I thought I'd add because, you know, I've been selling for 15 odd years and I did use stages before, and the reason that I've come to, you know, just working exclusively with you is that the bigger staging firms just don't have the care factor, and they just go and quote off of a plan and chuck it in, and, you know, if things aren't right with how the property's presenting, they don't tell me, and, you know, in your case, you sometimes just fix it up without even telling me. And so it's just a completely different level of service. It's a lot more personalised, and as you say, with you saying that you want to stay boutique and, you know, not get massive, well, that's good news for my clients then.
Well, look, in saying that, you know, I'm always an investor first, so I'm always going to put my investment.
I think that's why we get along so well as well. So
yeah, I'm always going to put my investor hat on. So I'm not going to vlog staging to somebody if say the property, you know, doesn't warrant for staging. You know, there's only so much staging can do. So I'm always an investor first. So a prime example, I think one of your clients, this was going back a little while ago, and we didn't have a conversation prior to me going out and meeting him. And I met him, and straight away I thought he was painting, he was doing quite a lot of things, but the carpet needed to be replaced. And then you remember this one in Thornley?
Yeah, we both told him this.
Yeah, and I didn't realise you did. And so I came in and said, oh, look, you probably really need to replace your carpet. And he said, look, Jody, I'm literally, my budget is either carpet or staging. Like I can't afford to do both. And I said, well, look, I'm always an investor first. I'm going to put my investor hat on. Let me have a think about it. And if I think your carpet's going to be more important than staging, I will tell you that. And I will walk away and say, do your carpet. Here's my contact. Get a good price for your carpet. So I said to him, look, leave it with me. I just need to absorb your house, run it through my own thought processes. And what would I do? I approach every job that I do as if this was my house and my flip project, and I wanted to get the best bang for my buck, and this is all I had to spend. What would I do? And that's how I approach all my jobs. And I think that makes me a little bit different in that respect, that I take that approach.
Yeah. There's no point putting lipstick on a pig, is it? And hoping that you can still get a good price. So. Yeah.
Look, you know, is it going to be of value or maybe not, you know? So, yeah, I went back and I had to think about it with this client. And my thought process was, when I went there, he had a nice kitchen. He had done the kitchen up. He painted the house throughout, but his both bathrooms were still very much dated. They were old pink toilet, pink vanity. So it was completely, those items were dated. So my thought process was, well, if he doesn't stage, people are going to see the carpets dated. They're going to see the bathrooms. They're going to see the bathrooms that are dated anyway, but it's going to be more of a negative.
The impact will be large, negative.
Yeah, they're going to go, oh. So I sort of said to him, look, I honestly think, don't worry about the carpet. Stage, I think, will have more of an impact in investing into the staging rather than doing the carpet. He ended up staging. I don't even know what the numbers were on that, Jared, you might remember, but I know that he rang me up and he was extremely happy. So
yeah, it was exceptional what we got in the end. And people did just latch on to how great a family home it was, and that's the whole lifestyle appeal that you added through the staging. And as you say, if it was just the carpet and it was the single thing, then that would have made it more of a stand out as the single thing you'd need to upgrade and do. But it was it's good to try and get a house to an overall even standard, isn't it? And when we've got other things that are sort of still lacking, the staging just gave them, well, for all those reasons we mentioned earlier, something else to focus on and get excited about. So,
and what you do is sometimes you find a fault and you make a feature. So you play on the pinks and things like that in the right way.
I did notice, the artwork around sort of took that into other rooms and,
100%. But yeah, look, it's, and did the carpet, did anybody really actually pick up?
No one specifically mentioned it to me, but I'm sure if we still did the carpet, we would have potentially gotten more, or maybe that one extra buyer or two extra buyers in with an offer that they might be spending their last dollars and not have the money to upgrade the carpet after the fact, and it could have held them out, for instance. But I guess we'll never know.
At the end of the day, when you're looking at it, it's the kitchens and bathrooms. The whole saying, kitchens and bathrooms sell houses. I mean, 100% it does. So, in comparison to, where do you spend your money? He couldn't afford to do the bathrooms, but his kitchen was lovely. Does the carpet really need to be done? Not really, because, those two areas are where people are going to focus, whether they're going to buy the house or not, how much money they're going to want to pay for the property. So, yeah, in the schemes of it, staging the benefits of staging outweighed replacing the carpet. So, yeah. And I'm actually working with a client right now, and the agent told me that she's already approached the painting side of it with her, and she doesn't want to paint. I went to a consult, and when I walked in, the walls are lime green. No joke. The whole living areas throughout the whole house, it's lime green, and in the bedrooms, it's yellow.
Oh, the combo. The citrus combo.
Yeah, and the agent's like, she doesn't want to spend any money. She doesn't want to paint, so don't, I'll be doing myself an injustice, or the client injustice, if I didn't bring it to their attention to say, hey, look, I'm putting my buyer's hat on now. That paint colour is going to be a detriment to your sale. 100% it's going to be a detriment to your sale. Not only is it going to produce bad marketing photos, any buyer that comes through the door is straight away going to think 10, 15 grand to repaint that house. And I said, look, just putting it out there, would you be open to me getting a quote for painting, and we potentially have a discussion when we know, what sort of costs are involved? And she's like, I can't afford 10 grand to paint. And I'm like, I don't think it's going to cost you 10 grand. But that's the reality. Like in buyers' minds, they're going to be thinking the painting's worth 10 grand. For you to do that work,
it's the hassle factor as well. They have to keep it vacant. They can't move in straight away. They have to get it done. It's hard to get tradespeople in this world. If we can solve it, then you can usually solve it for far less than the problem's perceived.
Exactly, 100%. But yeah, look, I've gotten her a quote to paint, and it's half the price of what we thought it was going to be. So she's painting. So yeah, it just goes to show some of these items that are unnecessary to do. But if I'm one of those people, like I said, is I would walk into a house and I will look at it from a buyer's point of view, and we're there to actually pull the negatives out, to tell them and be honest with them. Because sometimes, like you said before, I know you don't do this, Jared, and none of the actual agents I work with do this, but I find a lot of agents, they don't tell them, and they overpromise. Because that they're worried about losing a listing, offending them, whereas I can come in and be that independent person that's coming from a buyer's point of view and going, okay, well, look, my job is to bring all the negatives, because this is what a buyer's going to do. They're going to, in their mind, walk around the house.
Yeah, well, that's why I figure I might as well tell them about all these things before we go to market, or I'll be telling them in the feedback that I give them afterwards. So I think it's a real shock for sellers when they hear that afterwards. It's like, I'd feel if I was them, why didn't you tell me? Like, why didn't you at least give me a chance to fix it?
Yeah, and 100%. And, you know, and like you said before, the actual cost to fixing some of these items is far less than the perceived value that a buyer is going to bring off the price. So it's also about getting that balance. You know, how much do I spend? Where do I spend that money to make sure that I'm getting the best bang for my buck? And in the end, you know, that ultimate best sale price.
Well, that's a good place to finish. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you for having me, and thank you, Principals.
And I know you've been, we've been busy on so many of our jobs lately. It's nice to finally sit down and get this down, because I think it'll help a lot of people, and looking forward to working with you on the next one.
Yeah, thank you. Take care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a reminder, the information discussed in this podcast is general in nature. As we don't know your specific situation, you should always seek professional advice before taking any action. For free market reports on your suburbs of interest and other helpful resources to grow your wealth, make sure you join my property investor update at investorsedge.com.au/join. And finally, make sure you're a member of our Perth Property Investment Facebook group to be part of the conversation with other like-minded investors, get help to your questions, and get a feel for what's going on out there in the market. I'll see you in the group.